Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. I have a story that I want to tell, and it's a story. It's something that happened about 3 weeks ago, and it really got under my skin, and it just it bugged me really bad. So, pretty much, as you can tell by the title, it's about church. Now, I'm not doing this video to bash any church. I'm very active in my church and I believe in the word of God. But it's how some people use the pulpit. All right. So when I look at it, nobody forced me to give. But when a pastor stands in the pulpit, pulls out a $100 bill, pulls out cash, and makes every man in the room stand up, and then ties it to your manhood, you tell me how free that choice really is, because it's not. And he knew that. Playing that type of game, he knew that. And that was something that happened to me and some other men recent. And like I said, it stirred up a fire inside my soul. Okay. Something that I've just recently been able to get through after talking to a couple of my friends who are pastors, as well as the pastor who was being installed. And we're talking about manipulation, talking about manhood, talking about money. We're talking about the church. And I promise you, if you've ever spent any time in the pews, if you've ever spent any time in a pew, you're going to feel every word of this. Let me take you back to the Sunday that this happened. I wasn't there for a regular church service. It was me and my wife. I was there. We were there. Let me say, we were there to support our friend, who is also my fraternity brother. And he's a man that I respect very much, who was being, as I said, installed as the new pastor of a local Baptist church. It was a beautiful occasion, full of joy, music, and the spirit of community, the spirit of God. It was about, I'd say, 60 to 80 folks were there. 60 to 80 people, and excuse me, 60 to 80 people were in the room. Their families, ministers, sorry, were all there. Anyway, moving on. My wife was with me, and several of my fraternity brothers were there as well. And we were there out of love, pure and simple. That's all it boiled down to show up for a brother on one of the most important days of his ministry. What I didn't expect was to leave that service questioning everything I had witnessed. I didn't expect that at all. Here's where everything just went sideways. We were going through the service. The service was going well. The music was good, everything like that. And then comes offering time. Offering time. If you've ever been in a Baptist church, you've seen offering time. But, for this event, you would expect to give something, a love offering of some sort. So that was nothing. That was nothing. It was how it was done. The minister who got up to conduct the offering, he was part of the program, but the minister who got up to conduct the offering, he stood up. And when he stood up, the first thing he said was, I'm going to veer from the program a little bit. Oh my goodness. Red flags flew up everywhere because, when a minister says they're going to veer from the program, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, whatever. This guy's going to do this. So what he does, the first thing he says is, my church is in the hood. To be honest with you, I don't care. Wherever God sends you to serve, that's where you need to serve. And then he goes on to say, well, we do things differently in the hood. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. So he tells a little story. And after he tells a story, mind you, there are probably about 20 to 25 ministers there. And when there's an installation that goes on, local ministers and ministers from around the region, they tend to come and show support and welcome this new minister to the community. And so there were about 20 to 25 ministers, not counting all the other folks who were out in the congregation. And so he goes into his pocket and he pops out and holds it up. And he says, in my hand, I have a $100 bill. And I want to challenge every single minister here to give $100 to this offering. I will start. And he puts his $100 in there. Of course, I didn't like that for the simple fact that you put them ministers on the spot and now you're putting them under pressure. And so they went ahead, the ministers came up. I don't know if they gave $5. I don't know if they gave the $100 that he requested or he challenged them to, but they gave. Next, he has the men stand up and he tells a story. He tells a story about manhood, about he connects it how a man should lead his home according to the Bible, and how he shouldn't only express it verbally, but he should express his leadership through what he does, to include his giving. Well, I knew we were going somewhere with this, going sideways somewhere. But then he goes on and says, well, my dad always told me that a man should have two things. And to be honest with you, the first thing, I don't remember. Because the second thing pretty much, excuse the language, but it pissed me off. But okay. He said, the first thing, I don't remember. The second thing, he says, money in his pocket. Well, of course, dad's from the old school. So he does, a lot of folks nowadays have electronic currency and things like that. But after he connects the giving to manhood, then he challenges every man in there to give, I think it was $50. It might have been 25, but I think it was 50. And that went through me like diarrhea after eating bad food. I ain't gonna lie. It went through me and I just felt this anger well up in me. He challenged them and then he said, now come on up here. When he challenged everybody to come up, I sit my tail down. I sit my tail down. Now, some of you all, you might not like what I did, but the fact of the matter is, giving is purely a private thing between you and God. You and God. That man cannot tell me what to give, when to give, how to give, or anything else like that. And so, uh, and I will say that my wife and I, we did give at a different time to my friend. And I'm trying to not say anybody's name, but it just, when he told the men to come up, he and I both locked eyes, and I sat down. And when I sat down, I looked at my wife, who was sitting behind us, because they wanted the fraternity brothers to sit on the first two rows, and our wives sat on the row behind us. But I looked at her and I told her, I said, he's out of pocket. This man is out of order. He's out of order. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was out of order. And I know some of you all are probably going to disagree with me. And I'm good for the conversation if you want to drop some comments or what have you. And I will respond. But he was out of order. And because when I look at it, first of all, you're connecting our manhood to giving. You're connecting our Christianity to giving. And essentially, it was one of those things like, you're not a real man or you're not a good Christian if you don't give. That's the way I took it. It might not have been the way that it was meant, but that's the way I took it. And so I'm thinking about, what about if there's a man here who doesn't have it to give, yet he goes in his pocket and gives anyway, but it could potentially cost him a meal or cost him a late payment on his bills. That's what I'm thinking. Not only am I thinking that, there's two other things that I'm thinking. The first was how people who are outside of the church, or those who have left the church, always talk about the church is full of hypocrites, which it is. But the church is a healing place. Let's be straight about that. It's a healing place for hypocrites. And they also say that all the pastors want is money. So he proved that part right. Then the second thing that came to mind, in the Bible, where it speaks on not money being the root of all evil, it's in First Timothy. It talks about the love of money being the root of all evil. And the way that he done that, it just, that's, it set my mind on that. So now I'm sitting there in I can't even talk. I'm still upset about it. But I'm sitting there and I'm upset about this. I'm in the Lord's house. I'm supposed to be feeling joy, which I was feeling before he got up. And so I'm feeling some type of way. And I know I shouldn't be. But anyway, he sits down after everybody gives, and then he challenged the church. He challenged the folks in the church. And the way he put it there, yeah, I didn't like that either. But I digress. Let's move on. Well, the minister of the hour who was going to preach for the installation, he gets up. Now, God truly used him because he got up there, he gave a sermon, and it put me right back in the proper frame of mind. In the proper frame of mind. It was a very good service. And then at the end of the service, my friend, the new pastor of this church, he and his congregation, they passed out some gifts to those ministers who were a part of the program. Nothing wrong with that. And at the end of it, he says to those ministers, brothers, I would like to fellowship with you. You know, I love our fellowship today, and I'd like to continue that. Well, from the pulpit, the minister who did the offering, of course, where everybody in the congregation could hear him, he says, yeah, I'll fellowship with you, and I'll come down here and make you some more money. It it just it just upset. And again, it went back to that, the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, this right here, it oozed out of this individual to me. It oozed out of him, and it didn't sit right with me. So I went home. Of course, I complained to my wife as we were going home. But I, the next day or so, I called one of my friends who was a minister. He wasn't there. I told him what I just told you all. And I told him, I said, I want to know, am I wrong for feeling how I'm feeling? And he told me, to be honest with you, brother, you aren't wrong. You aren't wrong. You have a right to feel that way. And unfortunately, a lot of ministers are going in that direction to guilt folks into giving. And he told me I was not wrong. And then I spoke to another minister who had been in the ministry long. He told me, Quinn, don't let that bother you. Don't let it bother you. That's what he does. But I told him, I said, that don't make it right. Don't make it right at all. When I look up there and I see somebody in the pulpit, I should see a person who exhibits everything about Jesus Christ. I should see it in his actions. I should hear it in his words. I did not that day when that individual was up. Okay. And so I pretty much left it alone for a little bit anyway. And then one of the people who was greeting folks as they came into the church, she saw me a couple of days later. And then she proceeds to tell me that she felt kind of off because when he walked through the door, he told her, I'm the money man. Like, oh my goodness, this can't get any worse. So, what I had to do, I reached out to my fraternity brother, the one who was being installed in the church. He and I had a meeting, a dinner meeting. And when we had this dinner meeting, I told him everything that I told you all. He thanked me for letting him know how I felt about that. He said, you are giving me a new perspective on that. But he also told me that that individual was in charge of raising money for a local college. And so that's in his DNA. That's what he does. But he did not make an excuse for it. He just told me that's what he does. And again, I told him, I said, it doesn't make it right. And when you look at it, when he's raising money for that organization that he works for, that's a worldly job. It's a worldly job. Now, if you want to try to raise money in the church, you might take some of those techniques or tactics and bring them into the Lord's house. But you definitely have to put them in a different type of package. Because when people give from their heart, it means more. It's more akin to what God is having us do. All right. And when you pressure folks into giving, the Bible doesn't want us to give begrudgingly. It says if you want to give begrudgingly, there's no need in giving at all. We had our talk, and I truly think that after talking to him, things got better for me. They got much better for me. He and I finished our dinner. I felt 4,000% better after talking to him. And I plainly told him, as long as you're allowing God to use you, my wife and I will support your ministry all day long. But if that individual is on the program, we'll still support you, but we won't show up to any events where he's on the program. And that's unfortunate unless he changes. And when I said that, he told me, and I believe him, that he would speak to that individual. He felt that him being the person in the position of honor at that time afforded him that privilege to speak to that individual and go forward. So I feel much better about that. A lot better about that. Anyway, I want to know what you think about that. If you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Don't just say you're wrong. If you think I'm right, tell me you agree. Tell me why. But don't use the comments to just beat the church down. Let's have a conversation that is fruitful. Like they said in the Bible, be fruitful and multiply. So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you. I look forward to seeing you all in my other videos. And feel free to share this video with somebody and subscribe. That's about it. Have a good day. We out.